Hey gamers, it's Gil, and these are my top 10 tips for Legacy, Steel and Sorcery. Tip number 1. Know your basic resources. Before you start gathering, it's important to know what materials you can collect and where to find them, and how to process them efficiently. For ores, you can find copper, iron, and bloodsteel. There's also an epic tier ore called mithril, which I believe is a rare spawn inside bloodsteel nodes. However, I have yet to find one. For trees, you can harvest birch, oak, maple, and ironwood. For leather, basic rawhide and rawhide scraps are dropped by the standard wolves. Light leather has a higher chance to drop from the white wolves that are slightly more dangerous around the map. And heavy leather has a higher drop rate from alpha wolves, such as the giant wolf in the North Cave or the wolf's den. For cloth, rough linen and linen scraps are dropped by basic skeletons and are also found in barrels and crates. Cloudweave has a higher drop chance from the elite skeletons, such as the small fire mage or the larger skeleton archers. Where Spiderweave has a higher drop chance from the boss tier skeletons, such as the living armor or the wraith. Now, once you've collected the materials, you need to process them. The armor smith will process ore into ingots, while the weaponsmith converts wood into heartwood. The tailor is special, because not only does she convert rawhide scraps into rawhide, she'll convert linen scraps into linen. She also lets you upgrade your cloth and leather into higher tier versions, provided that you have the extra materials. Tip 2. Looting tree bags for easy rewards. Tree bags are an excellent way to gather loot, especially for newer players who aren't yet confident enough to venture into the more contested areas. These bags hang from trees across the map and contain a variety of useful items, including treasure, which is sold for glint, and crafting materials like metal hinges. Now, if you're wondering how to find a tree bag, if you've ever been walking through the forest and heard the distinct sound of a rope creaking, the first few times I heard it, I thought it was a ranger pointing a bow at me. But don't panic too much, just look up. You might see a bag hanging from a tree suspended by a creaking rope, and it's just loot waiting to be claimed. Now, every class has a way to knock these bags out of the tree. For a warrior, you can use your iron grip ability. Rogues can use their phantom dagger. And hunters and priests have the easiest time. They can simply left click attack and knock those things right out of the tree. Now, one thing to be worried about is it does make a loud noise when the rope snaps, which can alert nearby players. Tip number 3. Understanding extractions. Knowing your extraction points is crucial for survival, and not all players share the same extraction locations in a lobby. Typically, your extraction will be whichever one is farthest from your spawn point. There are two primary extractions available to most players, with the waterfalls being on the east side and the wagon being on the west side. Beyond that, there are four additional extractions, each with a special requirement. The coin extraction in the southwest corner costs 100 gold to leave. This must be carried on your character and does not come from your out of session balance. It is important to note that this is the only solo extraction in the game, meaning that if you're playing with a duo or a trio, every member must pay for themselves separately. The next extraction is the bridge in the southeast corner of the map. This one requires the goblin lever to operate a drawbridge. Simply insert the lever, lower the bridge, cross it, and then you extract. These next two both require a special key to use, and the key is a one time use. So, if you get it, don't think you can just keep hitting that extraction point. It's a one and done. The first being the crypt key extraction in the cemetery church basement, which requires the aptly named crypt extraction key. Now, this area is guarded by a wraith, so be prepared for that fight. If you decide not to fight the wraith and open the door and get in, he can aggro, and that can be a little bit hectic in that tiny room. Inside the room, there are extra loot chests for you. So pick and choose your loot, and then head to the back door and stand there to extract. The last and final extraction is the red key in Lightbearer's Keep. This extraction is located in the top of the easternmost tower, and requires the castle extraction key. Inside this extraction, there is also several extra pieces of loot. So pick what you want and then stand in the center of the tower to extract. Always check your extraction at the start of the game. That way, you can pay attention to how much time you have left and make sure that you give yourself adequate time to get to your extract. Nothing feels worse than running towards your extract and there being 20 seconds left on the clock and you missing it just by a few seconds and losing all of your loot. Tip number 4, food. Food is a valuable resource both inside and outside of an adventure. While the buffs listed on food only apply when it's prepared in your cooking pot, food still plays a crucial role mid match as a reliable way to restore HP. Different foods restore different amounts of HP when consumed, with the grub and the onion only healing 5 hit points, while the wild flank comes in at a whopping 65. And even the rotten apple has a place at a fat 25 hit points. Not only that, but there are times when you're dying and you have no meds. Maybe you just won a 1v1 against a rogue and he poisoned you. And his poison is ticking down and you have no more meds left. But you have a cheeky apple just sitting in your bags. Pop that bad boy and get just a little bit of HP back. That could be the difference between life and death. And it has been for me several times. Now, preparing food in your cooking pot before an adventure will grant you powerful effects such as increased max health, poison resistance, physical damage boost, max stamina increase, and a boost in sprint efficiency. These buffs make a world of difference, and upgrading your cooking pot is one of the best things you can do for an overall buff in your performance. Mastering food means more survivability and better long term planning. So eat up and stay strong. Tip number 5, afflictions and their effects. Afflictions are debuffs that can severely impact your performance in combat. While some values may have changed from early versions of the game, the core effects remain the same. Here's a breakdown of the major afflictions and their sources. Disease. Disease reduces attack power by 30% and lowers maximum stamina by 50% for 3 minutes. Common sources are skeletal archers and the rogue's claw attack. Poison. Poison's effect reduces healing by 50% and deals nature damage every 3 seconds for 60 seconds. Common sources include various rogue attacks and abilities, the Hunter's Spore Bomb and Lotus Arrow, spiders and goblin skirmishers, and drinking the foul elixir. Hemorrhage. Hemorrhage's effect is to lose 20% max health and take 15 damage per second for 15 seconds. Sources of hemorrhage include various mobs around the map, as both wolves and some goblins apply it, as well as the rogue's claw attack and the warrior's mace and shield. Curse. The curse effect increases all damage taken by 50% for 3 minutes. I believe the Wraith boss is the only current, well, more of an elite. The Wraith elite is the only current known source of curse, and this is probably the scariest debuff to be hit with, as 50% more damage taken is terrifying. Penitence. Penitence's effect is that when attacked, the attacker is healed for 10% of the damage dealt. The source of penitence is from priests hitting enemy players or NPCs with their holy attacks. The infogram says that it lasts for 3 minutes, and that might be true on NPCs, but it is definitely shorter on players. Probably closer to 30 seconds, but I'm not 100% sure. To cure afflictions, you can craft a poison antidote or a disease cure at the alchemist, use bandages to stop the hemorrhage effect, and as far as I know, curse has no known cure, making it once again one of the most dangerous afflictions in the game. Tip number 6, understanding glowing players. If you see a blue glow around a player, it means they're in an unstoppable state. However, unstoppable is a bit misleading, as you can still stop them. A more accurate term would be unstaggerable, as the main effect is they cannot be staggered by attacks. What does this mean? Most weapons and attacks cause stagger when they hit, briefly interrupting enemy actions. When a player is unstoppable, or they have that blue glow, They won't be knocked out of their attack animation by basic hits like left click swings. However, this doesn't make them immune to all crowd control. Abilities such as a rogue stun or root effects will still hold them in place. It's also important to note that unstoppable attacks counter unstoppable attacks. This means that the stagger from an unstoppable attack will still go through, even against a blue glowing player. For example, if two warriors charge at each other and both use an unstoppable attack, the warrior who lands their hit first will stagger the other, interrupting their attack. This makes timing and reaction speed crucial when facing another player using unstoppable moves. Red glow, unblockable attacks. If a player or NPC is glowing red, their attack is unblockable. This one's simple. Don't try to block a red glowing attack. It will go straight through your guard and hit you anyway. Green glow, evasion. When a player is glowing green, they're in an evade state, similar to dodge rolling in Dark Souls. While evading, players gain invincibility frames, or iframes, allowing them to dodge through nearly any attack or ability without taking damage. Learning when and how to evade properly can mean the difference between life and death in a fight. Orange glow. Orange glow can mean two different things depending on whether you're looking at a player or an NPC. Players glowing orange have completely run out of stamina and can no longer dodge. This is the perfect time to punish them for overusing their evade. NPCs glowing orange are currently immune to damage. This usually happens when they reach their max leash range and are returning to their spawn point. Yellow glow, resilient. When a player is glowing yellow, they're in a resilient state, meaning they're immune to crowd control effects. This generally happens when a player has been hit by too many CC effects in a short period. Resilient will activate automatically, granting them a few seconds of CC immunity. If an enemy is glowing yellow, don't waste your stuns or roots. Wait for their immunity to wear off before applying more CC. Tip number 7. Skull keys and where to use them. Skull keys are valuable items that can be found on shelves or looted from elite type enemies. These keys are used to unlock various locked chests scattered throughout the world. The majority of skull key chests are found in the Lightfallen Cemetery and the ruins of Lightbearer's Keep. However, many more of them are hidden throughout the world, just waiting to be discovered. Upgrading skull keys into treasure room keys. Instead of crafting, treasure room keys are obtained by bartering with the treasurer NPC. To trade for a treasure room key, you will need 3 skull keys, 3 foul elixirs, and 3 glint dust. The treasure room has high value rewards, such as lots and lots of gold, gems, and the blue upgrade materials for your lodge. It's located in the basement of the Church of the Woods and is a great place to amass a lot of loot in a short amount of time. There's also a treasure room located beneath the animated armor area in the crypts. However, I don't recommend it, as the general consensus is that this treasure room does not have as good loot as the one up north does. Tip number 8. Air tripping. What is air tripping? It's when you get hit mid-air by an attack from another player or mob, even hunter arrows or just melee attacks, and then your character will fall over or trips midair and then crashes down to the ground. And while this is happening, you can't do anything. It's the same as being stunned, which leaves you completely vulnerable. 9 times out of 10, jumping to attempt to dodge an attack will get you air tripped, which is basically a death sentence. To avoid air tripping, instead of jumping, focusing on learning how to evade attacks with well-timed dodges. Or a lot of attacks, you can simply just run out of range. And for those pesky hunters, use obstacles like rocks or trees. Make sure you don't get hit by them. Once you're more experienced with the flow of combat, you can start incorporating jump attacks or strategic jumps to escape. But until then, keep your feet on the ground. Tip number 9. Soul pouches. Soul pouches let you take resources out of a match, even if you die, making them incredibly useful when you're low on supplies or just starting out. The starter pouch is only 1x2, meaning it has very limited space and you won't make it out with much stuff. Once you've upgraded that tailor, you get access to 5 different specialized pouches which have 2x3 storage space, making them great for focused farming. At higher tailor levels, you can unlock a 2x2 General Soul Pouch, which allows you to put any type of item in it, giving you even more flexibility. Tip number 10, interactive map. Are you struggling to find certain materials or having a hard time locating beetles? Try out the Legacy Interactive Map. This map shows locations of key resources, bosses, spawn points, and more. It includes filters to display exactly what you're looking for, whether it's ore veins, enemy spawns, or fat loot. While the map is still in development, it's already an incredibly valuable tool for both new and old players, and will help everyone learn the map faster. I'll include a link in the description, and be sure to check out the bottom left corner of the map to see the wonderful people keeping it updated. This has been Gil's Top 10 Tips for Legacy, Steel, and Sorcery. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any other great tips you want to share, let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace out and game on.